Now, what you need to know, because this can be insanely frustrating, especially if you're dealing with a gun shop that doesn't follow the rules, and that does happen. I mean, I'll jump more into that topic towards the end of the video because I need to touch on it, especially with this type of video. So, what is the difference between a straw purchase and a gift? Well, basically, it comes down to when you boil all the fat away. If you can look at an officer with a straight face and say, yes, I bought him that firearm as a gift, you're good to go. Now, it comes down legally a little bit differently. I shouldn't say differently, like, they give actual examples. It's gotta be a bona fide gift. Let me grab a couple of props real quick. Alright, I got my props. Side note, I'm not a lawyer, and none of this at all should be taken as legal advice. So creepy doll number 1 really likes creepy doll number 2. And like, hey, I would like to buy you a gift. And for whatever reason, I decided it was going to be a firearm. So creepy doll number 1, with her own money, totally by herself, with no incentive motivation, buys a firearm and decides to gift it to creepy doll number 2. That would be okay. Creepy doll number 1 was like, hey, I really like what you did, for my garden. So creepy doll number 2 has been working for creepy doll number 1. Creepy doll number 1 was like, well, why don't I buy you a firearm for your services? And gives it to creepy doll number 2. That would not be okay. That would be a straw purchase. Because there was a financial incentive for creepy doll number 1 to buy creepy doll number 2 a firearm. Now, state-to-state transactions, that's a little bit weird. It's complicated, so I'm just not even going to touch on that. There will be a separate video for that at some point. But we're going to assume everyone lives in the same state. Now, if creepy doll number 1 buys a firearm, takes it to the range and and decides she doesn't want it anymore, even if it's in the same day she bought it, and was like, well, I can't take it back to the gun shop and sell it because now it's used, so I'm going to get a whole lot less money. She can sell it to creepy doll number 2. Depending on your state laws, you're going to want to check on them. Because that's totally legal. That would be a private transfer. Now, if creepy doll number 1 was like, hey, that's an awesome sale on that firearm, I'm going to buy it with the intent to sell it. Like before she even purchased it, she already intends on selling that firearm to creepy doll number 2, that would be different. Because if you are if you are buying a firearm with the intent to pull a profit off of it, you need to have your FFL license. Now say creepy doll number 1 went into a gun shop and was like, hey, that's a really, really awesome deal. I'm going to buy that firearm. On her way home, she crashed her car and needed a bunch of money and sold it and happened to get more than she originally paid for it. Because she didn't buy it initially with the intent to sell, she could sell it to creepy doll number 2. That would be okay. Remember, again, I don't mean to hammer on this so much, but it's very important to check your state laws. Because state laws go beyond what federal. I'm just touching on federal. Alright, so now, creepy doll number 1 was like, hey, if I buy you this firearm for Christmas, I want this in return for my Christmas present. That would not be okay, because there's compensation, plus she is also telling her exactly what firearm she wants to buy. Did I touch on everything? Now, if creepy doll number 1, or say there's a Secret Santa, creepy doll number 1 is like, hey, I'm going to buy a firearm. Creepy doll number 2 is like, hey, I'm going to buy this. And we exchange at Secret Santa. Because it was a bona fide gift. It was an actual gift. That would be okay. So again, let's touch on the basics. If it is a bona fide gift, it would be okay. Now, it does get weird too when you go into the actual gun shop. So say, creepy doll number 2 has never bought a firearm before. Creepy doll number 1 is like, hey, I would like to buy you a firearm. So they both go into the gun shop. Creepy doll number 1 is like, hey, this is the firearm I recommend you get. I like it for whatever reason. Now I'm going to pay for it. Creepy doll number 2 is actually doing the background check. That would be a bona fide gift. Now say they left the store and creepy doll number 2 gave the firearm back to her, and this was pre-planned, like, hey, we're going to pretend like I'm just helping you buy a firearm. That would be a straw purchase. Because the intent is for the firearm to go back to her all along, and she's doing the background. So she would be an agent to buy the firearm. A Supreme Court case that happened, creepy doll number 1 was a retired police officer. Let me get right. Creepy doll number 1 is a retired police officer. Gets a discount on firearms because she's a retired police officer. So she uses her retired police officer skills to get a cheaper firearm. Even though creepy doll number 2 can legally own a firearm, she is just using herself as an agent. She does not have her FFL. So she is not allowed to do that. That would be a straw purchase. Even if creepy doll number 2 can legally own a firearm, because she is using her skills to be able to buy the firearm for cheaper or for whatever the hell reason, that would be different. Or if creepy doll number 2 is a paranoid whatever you have it, and was like, hey, I don't want my name on this firearm, will you go buy it for me? I'll give you the money, everything's cool, you're just gonna go buy it for me. So they can both legally own a firearm, but now they have broke the law. Because she is just using her to buy the firearm, so her name's on it, because she ain't gonna own the firearm, she's gonna lose it in a boating accident, and then give it to her. That would be against the law. Now, if creepy doll number 1 has reasonable suspicion to suspect creepy doll number 2 cannot legally own a firearm. Now this is reasonable suspicion. So I mean, a lawyer can argue till he's purple in the face what is and what is not reasonable suspicion that this person, or if she just plain knows this person, cannot legally own a firearm. So she buys it to give to this person. That would not be a gift. That would be a straw purchase because she already has, knowledge that this person cannot own a firearm. Again, it basically comes down to, is it a bona fide gift? And if it is, do I have any reason to suspect? Now, they're not requiring you do some sort of background check or dig into the information, because that's just plain creepy all by itself, digging up somebody's past for no reason. If you do not reasonably suspect they're a prohibited person and it's a bona fide gift, you're good to go. Now, a lot of gun shops are weird about this, and I get it. It's for a good reason. But this in itself, I believe, is an infringement on the Constitution. If you're safe enough to be on the street where you can make bombs, drive cars, fly planes. I mean, one of the biggest terrorist attacks, not a single gunshot was fired. Then you're safe enough to own a firearm. But because of the way the law is, we have to follow it. So if one turns you down and you really want to rub some salt into the wound, it actually says here in black and white what a straw purchase is and is not. And it even lists examples.
Question 11A. Actual transferee buyer. For purposes of this form, a person is the actual transferee buyer if she is purchasing the firearm for him herself or otherwise acquiring the firearm for him herself. For example, redeeming the firearm from pawn, retrieving it from consignment, firearm raffle winner. A person is also the actual transferee buyer if she is legitimately purchasing the firearm as a bona fide gift for a third party. A gift is not bona fide if another person offered or gave the person completing this form money, service, S, or item, S, of value to acquire the firearm for him/her, or if the other person is prohibited by law from receiving or possessing the...
So if someone's like, no, I'm not selling you the firearm because it's a straw purchase, and you know it's not a straw purchase, like you're trying to give somebody a firearm, you can always pull out the 4473 and have them read the example, because they may not know. There's a lot of confusion, especially after the case here in Milwaukee. Now, I was actually going to give an opinion for this case and that, but because it happened so long ago, and every source I could find on the internet was politically motivated, And I mean bad, like they'd start off talking about Hillary Clinton and Obama and how they're going to make the world a better place, and we need to repeal a clause in there because there's no possible way I can know what you're going to do with the firearm. It's just not possible. So suing me because I sold a firearm that was used in a crime is just ridiculous. Well, they've been trying to repeal it. And a case happened in Milwaukee. Basically, 2 officers were shot. The gun shop had surveillance camera right on the counter where they actually fill it out. And then the lawyers convinced the jury that, hey, we're going to rule that they should have been more careful, when they should have not have ruled like that. They should have ruled, was a federal law broken or not broken in front of the clerk? Bottom line, no extra information. Did the clerk see a law being broken, and should he have stopped it? Yes, he should have been more careful. Like, there was some red flags. But there was no federal law broken right in front of him, and that's all that matters. Did a federal law get broke or did it not? So anyways, they got some really good lawyers, got the jury to, kind of like when you have an insurance settlement and the jury doesn't understand that if they say you're 50-50 at fault, the insurance doesn't need to pay a penny. Anything over 50-50, the only way to get the insurance to pay any kind of money is to say you're only 49% at fault. And then you only get 1% of the settlement or 2%, something crazy like that. I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to go into it too deep. But basically, that's what the lawyer had convinced the jury. That they were ruling on if he should have been or should have not have been more careful. When, in fact, the jury should have been ruling, was there a federal law broken? Did the clerk see a federal law get broken? Because otherwise, that makes no sense. It's just hearsay. The point is, I'm trying to get at, is no matter what, that shop was going to go down. They got some good lawyers. Even if things would have happened totally differently, they were still going to get grilled. Now, why that matters is because that started off a trend, and now Bushmaster is going to be heard in front of a civil suit, which is completely ridiculous. Like, how can you tell me that a company that is making the firearm has any sort of idea of what's going to happen with it? And you know how they're going after Bushmaster? That their marketing implies that these firearms are military use and that's their intended purpose. So those commercials, in fact, made the killer want to kill because of the commercials, which influenced him to want to use it as a military weapon. So that's why a lot of gun shops are weird about it. But the fact of the matter is, if you get attacked by the billions of leftist dollars and all their attorneys, you're going to go down, regardless if you're the most careful about straw purchase and that. So because this is an infringement on the Constitution, really, I'm recommending you follow exactly what this is supposed to say. Don't go above and beyond to try to weed out straw purchases, because it isn't going to make a difference. If they're coming after you, they're coming after you. It doesn't matter how many gift purchases you shut down that you claimed were straw purchases, you're going to get screwed. It's just the way it is. There's nothing you can do about it. Taking this fact or knowledge out on the customer, just don't do it. It's not their fault. And you're not going to stop any leftist repercussions, regardless how, even if you're like, this shop will not do gift purchases. It doesn't matter. You're still going to get hammered. Hopefully enough companies will come up and back you up. This way you can try to fight it legally. The way it's been looking lately, with the way the laws are going, I don't even think gifts are going to be legal for much longer. I think they're going to require a background check for everyone. You're like, oh yeah, that'll save me from what happened in Milwaukee. No, it's not. They're going to come after you no matter what. So you need to fight. The more people the more firearms you can get in people's hands, the more people you can get on board with the Second Amendment, the better chance we have. Am I saying you should do obvious shady deals? No. Like, for example, we had a person come in and there was an FFL shop in another location and they had seen one of our Facebook posts and we had a pretty rare firearm come in. So they had a firearm enthusiast come in to check it out and see, because he was actually very knowledgeable. Like, he was just rattling off crap I didn't even know. To check it out and make sure it's a legit firearm, and then he wanted to pay that guy to buy it, and that couldn't happen. We had to sell it directly to the FFL, which, whatever, not a problem. So anyways, I hope this probably confused the crap out of you and did not clear anything up, but it was intended to help clear things up, so I apologize for that. If you'd like to check out any of my other videos, click on one of those two boxes right there.